Hey, g'day friends. Hello. Here we are. It is the 2nd of February 2022. Well, that's probably a good date, is it? 2/2/22. We're here in New Zealand. I'm in the far north. I'm not in the far north. I'm just in Northland, Tutakaka Coast, for those of you who know Northland, New Zealand. Thereabouts, just up from Sandy Bay. So I'm sitting in a boat that's on a block of land. We're accommodating here for the next week. The boat is long since out of the water. I think it's been out of the water for 6 years. Big steel sailing boat. And yeah, we're accommodating in it. And this is where I'm doing my live stream from. Obviously, I also did the the new moon call last night from here as well. So welcome. This is hopefully Chat with Matt, and I'm here to share with you for the next half an hour or so. Anything that you'd like to know. I was just jumping on to Facebook here to find out if anyone wrote anything in ahead of time, and it seems, oh, there's the boat, right? I showed you the boat on the photo that I posted last night, notifying of this thing. Hey, Sister Jane. And Jill. Hello. Yeah, so basically I'm sans question. I'm without any questions. So I'm on my own. Let's turn the volume down on my computer. That would be a good thing to do. Yeah, what do you guys want to know? I've managed to leave my water down lower in the boat. But that's okay. I'll manage for half an hour without any water. Yeah, we're up here looking at property before our retreat starts, which is starting in a couple of weeks. We've got a retreat on the 16th of February and then another one on the 26th, I think, of February. So we're doing 2 retreats, ironically, maybe not ironically, on a boat as well. Hey, Sister Susie. Woohoo! 20-year wedding anniversary. That's pretty special. Many blessings on 20 years of putting up with each other. He says tongue in cheek a little, but yeah, I know what it's like because Marie and I have we've just managed 21 in last November, so we're in a similar boat. So I'm using all the boat analogies, but anyway, yeah. Well, of course, Jill just wrote, it's the Chinese year of the water tiger that's beginning right now, with this new moon. And does that have any significance? All astrology has a degree of significance. If you think about it, the Chinese are placing significance on the water tiger, and there's, however many billion of them. So that's rather a large morphogenetic field of people believing that this year is of a certain characteristic, right? Just like a lot of us believe in, people born in the month of, October, or at least the first half of October and the last part of September are Libran, and they have certain qualities as well. So yeah, there's definitely power to all of that. So the water tiger, from what I've read, and I haven't read a lot about it, but it's got the sort of the watery nature, so it's flowing. So we've got a nice flow to this year, but we've also got tiger qualities, which are apparently more sporadic, unpredictable, and even a little chaotic. I would have thought it's quite a feminine sign, a tiger being a feline, but it's not really for me to read into what their astrology means. I just read a couple of accounts of the basic Chinese astrology. So we're looking for a year that's potentially flowing but sporadic. So a little bit more like flowing like rapids flow, a little bit unpredictable, a little bit chaotic, a little bit exciting. I think that's generally fits in with my feelings of how this year's going to go. I think it's going to go quite quickly. There is going to be quite a pace to it, in my opinion. It feels like the intensity or the flow is increasing, and yet it is going to be unpredictable and exciting and potentially scary, right? In how things flow. In the, I'm dealing this month with you know, this new moon felt very much about truth. Being Aquarian is very much about truth. And so that was the gist of last night's new moon transmission around this sort of relaxing into a more expansive or a more empowered relationship with this thing called truth. So we can sort of get out of the polarity of true versus false and get into, you know, like a truth versus a lie, and get into a more expansive expression of truth as being authentic to the being that we be, right? That's the real truth, right? Because everything else is very, very, very perceptive, relative anyway. Truth is very relative, right? What's true for you is not true for someone else. Yeah, potentially we'll have some more tsunamis. Potentially, I think the Earth is doing a lot of shifting, and we will see more geotechnical shifts in the Earth. I do think that, especially with the magnetic fields weakening. I think we're going to see a lot of intense weather and a lot of intense Earth movements in general. I don't think this is going to be a particularly stable and predictable ride this year or for the near future. So the more that we can accept that, the more that we can sort of relax into being adaptable and adjustable, and you know, not freaking out when things don't seem so supportive. You know, a tsunami doesn't seem supportive, but it's part of a supportive process in cleansing the earth, right? People are going to die. There's no doubt about it. You know, it's beneficial for us all to sort of relax out of this badness around death. You know, because it's part of nature. It always has been, and there is at the moment a big change afoot, and there will be people who choose to leave, and there's souls who have agreed to leave, and there's going to be a lot of changing going on over this period of time. Some of it is going to look bad, wrong, scary, etc. Like things have, you know, gone badly, but generally it is all part of a process of evolution. And if we can hold space and intent and faith around the idea that the evolution is going in a positive direction, even though it's uncomfortable and even though it might necessitate some unfortunate experiences of death and decay and things falling apart, including lives and livelihoods and old ways of doing things, etc., then we're going to move through it much more effectively, you know, much more effectively. I think one of the biggest things that holds us back from really living in this time is our fear of death. I think that's, you know, been the case on this planet for a long time, that humans, and I think it's, you know, a rather large conspiracy, that we've been educated into being scared of death. You know, a lot of more native cultures or more grassroots cultures or more uneducated, yeah, I'll use the word uneducated. See, we think that this education is such a great thing. We use uneducated like it's some sort of slur, like it's some sort of criticism of people. But, you know, the uneducated are the happy ones on this planet, right? The uneducated are the ones who are still living from their heart, living in happiness, living in collaboration with the earth, right? It's this education that we've all been subjected to, inflicted with, that has robbed us from our natural happiness and from our natural acceptance and from our natural cohesion with earth and nature and our communities in general, right? We play this one-upmanship, we play this intellectual competition because of our education, right? This judgment of rights and wrongs and truth versus lies, right? It's all based in education. We're using this analysis to determine what's true and what's false, and then arguing with each other around this, right? Uneducated people don't do that so much, right? They're much more wholesome, you know. I remember a saying that I used to think was quite funny, and don't know whose quote it is, but someone is famously quoted as saying, you know, I've had a first-class education, it's taken me years to get over it, you know, and I and I'm the same. I've been well educated as an engineer. 4 years at university, honours degree in engineering, mechanical, but it only sort of fortified my potential to negatively analyze things, to look for problems, and to be very sort of intellectually influenced in how I do the world, right? And ultimately, it didn't bring a lot of joy. It didn't bring a lot of joy. Some of those skills are great, right? Some of the skills to be able to problem solve and to look at how things can logically flow better are beneficial. It's not all bad, but there's a general sort of can't think of the right word, but a general sort of outcome, I guess, where when you're highly educated, you tend to look at things much more black and white. Things become much more true and false, and that's not a great way to live, in my opinion. It causes a lot of conflict, and it causes a lot of contraction and stress. When you think things are either wrong or right, then you're trying to avoid wrong things and you're trying to get more right things. And none of that really helps. And again, you align with people and you want to argue with people, and you're always looking to defend your rightnesses against other people's wrongnesses. And, it's just a world of suffering. When you can relax into a more expansive, encompassing acceptance of the world, then things go much more comfortably. Jill wrote, I am going through another phase of not knowing who to trust. I was told some whopper fibs by estate agents, and my house... Come on, see more. Right, I'm going to try and see that down here. Bear with me. When it gets too long, I'm not great at scrolling through. Here we go. No. I'm not great at scrolling through the screen. Okay, I was going through another phase of not knowing who to trust. I was told some whopper fibs by estate agents and my house purchaser, who has been holding everything up and getting me into hot water with my mortgage company for delaying, and thereby causing me to look like a liar. Saw the guy in the pub on Friday and asked him straight out what's going on. Suddenly his survey happened yesterday, and I'm getting calls saying, when do I want to set a sell date? It's going to move fast now, perhaps. Yeah, I think in general, to go back to the first point, this thing called trust, and this thing where we trust people and what they've said, I don't think anyone deserves our trust, in that we trust them that they've told a truth based on our perception. A whopper fib from their point of view or your point of view. And I know you get very caught up in, well, the facts are, but facts also are not absolute, right? Someone's facts are not the same as someone else's facts. And I know you can start arguing, but yes. In general, you have to look him in the eye to get the truth. Yeah, because people will say what is true for their benefit at the time, right? What is true for their benefit at the time. This is the point. So in general, we should trust no one. And that's not that we go through the world in a state of doubting everything, but we move through the world in a state of empowerment, that we understand that people will do what they do based on what serves them. And that's not wrong. We should do the same, right? As long as it's in alignment with our heart, then go for it. Because, and don't, get too hung up on that other people might think that you're lying because you do that, or other people might think that you're being selfish, or other people might have all sorts of judgments of you. That's going to be the nature of the world always. There's always opportunities for others to judge us, and for us to judge others, as an example. But ultimately, it doesn't help. What really helps is for us to feel into our heart and know what information to trust at what time, right? And what serves. We should never believe that anyone is trustworthy or any information is trustworthy until Exactly. So someone told you that he didn't need a mortgage to haggle paying less for your house. But yeah, exactly. We shouldn't trust that. Those are games of negotiation that all sorts of people will play in all sorts of times, right? So ultimately, we have to stick with what price we want to sell our house for, and not get too caught up in what conditions people are saying that they're going to meet if we don't have any, good proof that that is actually the truth. So this, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. This is the nature of the world as it has been on this planet for a long time, and such things are not going to change overnight. People are going to misrepresent what we would call truth in order to achieve their best outcome. And we have to be aware of that and not get contracted around the wrongness of people doing that, because they've always done it and they always like to do it. Yeah, and so you say, I hate playing those games, but unfortunately, Jill, that's the way the world goes. So you don't have to play the game, but you have to be aware that others are playing it. And to hate anything is to cut yourself off from reality. Hate is a dangerous emotion in that it influences us greatly into aversion. Basically, what we hate, we're averse to. And if we're averse to it, then we cut ourselves off from it. And what we cut ourselves off from, we can't benefit from. And so it doesn't mean that we need to play the game at the same level. We don't need to lie to get ahead, but we need to be aware that others are likely to do so. And so just because we hate it doesn't mean that we should pretend that it doesn't exist or try and avoid it. We have to embrace it as part of how the world works thus far. And at the same time, maintain our intention to move into something better, right? So the point is not to get disappointed when we find out that that's what's been going on, because then we feel that we're getting ripped off, or we're feeling that we are being abused. And when we feel abused, then we feel small and belittled and disempowered. So that doesn't help. So it's much better to hold an expansive understanding that all sorts of stuff is going down, and not to get contracted around the to's and fro's of the truth and how people are behaving. We need to stay true to our own heart, and we need to accept that others are going to do whatever they do, and not to get feeling like we're the victim of other people doing what they do. All of this that's unfolded has given you an opportunity to step into your power. None of it is happening as a punishment to you. None of it is happening as a wrongness or a failing of yours. You're not failing. You are learning, you are expanding, and you are growing, and you are aligning with what is important to you. And that's really where the advantage is for you. And when you maintain that appreciation of the situation, and you see that, all of this holding stuff up is actually helping you release a lot of energy, so that when you move into your new place, your new area, your new life, you're going there in a more empowered way, in a more free way. You are being helped, triggered to move through a process of releasing a lot of discordance that you've been left with from the past this lifetime, past other lifetimes. Yeah, as Jane said, have some fun with it. I know it's difficult. We all sort of want things to go smoothly and easily, but that is not actually the pathway to greatest growth. And at this time on the planet, we're very much in an expansive growth phase, where a lot of our pains and our discomforts are being revealed, so that we can move through them, so that we can witness them, accept them, and relax out of them. It's not comfortable, and it's not easy, right? We're always going to find ourselves, quote unquote, failing at dealing with or coping with some of the discordance that arises from within us at this time. So we take deep breaths, and we do our best in the moment. So, you've stood in your power now, you've all asked him face to face, and so now it's moving forward, and this is best, right? And sometimes this is how things have to be done. You know, we've relied on doing things at arm's length for too long. You know, this idea of you know, agents and stuff doing the negotiations and all of this, all of the old way of doing business has benefited a corrupt system. And now that we're more moving into our hearts, now that this sort of new age of truth is emerging and establishing itself and growing stronger on the planet, it's time to let go of a lot of the old ways of doing things and move into a much more heart-based way of doing things, which is face-to-face negotiation between buyer and seller, and not so much of this contract going backwards and forwards in the hands of an agent. That is much, much easier for things to be deceitful and for things to be misrepresented. You know, it's like that for a reason, because that's the way that the ruling establishment has prospered on this planet, through deceit and misrepresentation. And we're moving out of that time now. So this is an opportunity. It's like, you know, we're up here looking at properties right now, and one of the first things that we did when we got here last night is start talking to the people who own this property, and talking about people that they might know who are interested in selling, so that we can avoid this whole sort of agent sort of situation and move into more direct negotiation with landowners and people, right? We love this area up here for the fact that it is very community orientated, and they are sort of, you know, breaking free and basically not complying with mainstream agendas in this very area, right? And a lot of people up here, you know, are at the moment, you know, without jobs and etc. because they haven't chosen to go with the mandated, you know, injections, etc., etc. And the people who we're staying with have big gardens here, and they've upped their production to help feed people who are now lacking in their income. So this is the sort of area we want to live in an area where it's much more, people are much more interested in integrity and much more interested in community, and less interested in you know, the old ways of doing things. Yeah. There are two, Susie said, there are two main real estate agents up there that aren't allowing vaccine-free people to view houses. Oh, I haven't seen that, Susie. I've noticed that a lot of the ads that I've seen, that I've been searching, have seen no vaccine pass required. That's interesting. I haven't seen yet any property that we've wanted to view online that has said that you need a vaccine pass. So that's interesting. Maybe we're looking at the sort of properties that aren't in that ilk. So, anywho's, what else, my friends? Got another 5 minutes or so to chit chat. Marie obviously has just come back, as you saw her walk along the gangway, along the edge of the boat here. Yeah. Oh, that's in Auckland you're talking about, rather than up here. Yeah. No, I can imagine in Auckland they're playing the game well and truly. Auckland's a much different kettle of fish to up here in Northland, in terms of people complying and people thinking that that's, you know, a valid way of doing things. People like the rules there. That's generally big city living in general. Big cities rely on rules, you know. They can't cope with as much freedom, right? We need much more compliance for things to function effectively or efficiently, you know, city efficiency in cities. Yeah, Northland's far more relaxed, and that's exactly why we are looking in Northland. Jill wrote, I'm happy with the price I'm getting. It's enough for me to move. The real pain and discomfort is the feeling of being judged by the mortgage company. Oh, well, don't worry about them, for God's sake. They're a dying beast. They're going to judge anyone they can. But, you know, allow yourself to feel the pain and the discomfort of being judged by them, but allow it to be a purification event. allow it to be a healing experience, right? To be judged by this dinosaur that's in the process of dying. You know, mortgage companies are going to be gone probably within 5 years, but definitely within a decade. We'll be working out lending much more decentralized, you know, much more decentralized, in my opinion, in my world. You know, the new world of finance that's evolving through the blockchain is going to allow us to borrow and lend money without this big middleman sucking out most of the profits from any sort of relationship of borrowing and lending money. So yeah, allow yourself to be triggered around that, but allow it to be a beneficial thing. I'll keep reading. That triggered cohesion tactics with menacing threats to me. I reacted badly to those threats. No, you didn't react badly to the threats. You reacted in a way that was purifying to the threats, right? You can call it bad because you don't want to feel that pain and you don't want to behave in that way. But these are old energies that are trapped inside of you where you've been abused in the past, Jill. So when these cohesion tactics are applied to you and you push back against them, understand that this is giving you an opportunity to grow. So don't label your reaction as bad, label it as intense, label it as uncomfortable, label it as triggering, but it's not bad, right? Because it's basically benefiting you. This is the point, right? It's not you failing. It's not, because it was never a test. It was an opportunity to grow, and you are growing through it. I know at first you don't handle it in the way that you would like to, right? But this is the point. Okay, keep reading. I reacted badly to those threats and they triggered a formal process to question my mental state, facing old karma again. Yeah, exactly. So it's perfect. Choose not to take it as a slur that they're questioning your mental state, because the truth is most people in these times are really struggling mentally. So they're having to question people's mental states because people are being driven mad by this process. So don't feel that that's some sort of slur that they're questioning your mental state. I question my mental state every day. Like literally, questioning your mental state's not a bad thing. I know it's been made out to be terrible that you could be, that it could be implied that you are not mentally handling this or mentally sane. But what is sane? Sane is only, functioning well in a world that's broken. What's sane about that, right? The world is broken. It's appropriate to be insane in these times, right? Because the measure of sanity is basically in complying with a world that isn't serving us, functioning in a world that is bent around harvesting energy out of fear. That's basically how the world has been for a long time, and that's what is, in the process of intensifying in its death throes. So to maintain, sanity based on the old measures of sanity is not a great thing. Exactly, Jane. Mental function changes minute to minute. And the more that we can relax out of judgments and conclusions around our mental state of being, right, and be much more fluid with it, then the better off you're going to be. Jill wrote, I'm escaping their clutches, going mortgage free, and they are throwing the toys out of the pram with bully boy tactics. Exactly. So be happy about that. Be happy that you're seeing their bully boy tactics, and trust that it is going to trigger you, and that getting triggered is not a failing of yours. It's actually part of your process to become truly free. So it's all working perfectly, Jill. Don't get judgmental on this, that things are going wrong or that you are failing or that they're bad, etc., etc. Everything is working out for your highest and best good here, and it's perfect. So well done. You're doing great. Don't see them as perpetrators, and don't see yourself as a victim. everything is working to give you the opportunities to expand into your best version of self. And while that is an uncomfortable process, and it triggers old abuse patterns and old fears inside of yourself, and etc., that is exactly what we're all going through in one way or another to achieve our liberation here, to achieve our true freedom, right? Our truth is emerging as these old stories are falling away. Old stories falling away require some antagonism, right? Require some triggering to bring it to the surface. Old stories don't just fall away quietly in the background while you sleep, unfortunately. Although we do process a bit of it in our dreams, that is true. But generally we require some situations to intensify what we are looking to become free of. So it's all perfect. Anyway, my friends, that was Chat with Matt for today. I will speak to you next week from a different location. No doubt there'll be a few more posts along the way as we live our best lives up here. The weather's not looking great, unfortunately, but so be it. It's a little bit overcast and it's likely to be so for a few days, but look at the weather forecast. But at least it's warm. Much love. Thanks, Jane. Bye for now. Namaste.